Imagine this scene like you're watching the opening shot of a movie. Dawn light fading, the sky turning into a bruised mix of purple and steel gray, and the distant hum of a jet engine rolling across the tarmac like thunder. And then, out of the crowd, through the noise, past the chaos of holiday travel, you see him. A man who moves like he already knows the ending of the story. He isn't nervous. He isn't sweating. He isn't checking over his shoulder like a criminal about to do something stupid. No. He walks with this calm, unshakable rhythm like he's stepped out of a different era or a different world entirely. Gray suit, black tie, polished shoes, the kind of face you'd forget the moment he looked away. And yet, there's something about him, something sharp, something controlled, something that makes you look twice without knowing why. He approaches the ticket counter, crowds everywhere, kids crying, people arguing about delays, luggage slamming against floors, but he moves through all of it like he's underwater, slow, steady, untouched. He slides one crumpled 20 across the counter and says, in a voice low and steady enough to cut through the noise, "One ticket to Seattle, and that's it. No return trip, no check bags, no questions. Just a one-way seat on Northwest Orient Flight 305, a $20 ticket, the cheapest ticket to the most expensive mystery America has ever paid for." The ticket agent smiles, stamps it, hands it back. She doesn't know, nobody knows, that she just handed a boarding pass to the most legendary disappearing act in U.S. history. She just sees a regular businessman heading home for Thanksgiving. Nothing strange, nothing memorable, nothing to fear. He walks down the jet bridge, the hum of the engines growing louder with every step, and boards the plane like he's done it 1,000 times. Passengers glance up at him. A couple businessmen, a mother with her son, a college kid reading a textbook he clearly doesn't want to read, and none of them give him a second thought. Why would they? He looks like he sells insurance. Maybe accounting. Boring, harmless, forgettable. He takes his seat. 18C. Not first class, not the front, not the back. Right there in the middle. The perfect place to disappear without being noticed. He orders a bourbon and soda before the plane even takes off. The flight attendant brings it, and he thanks her with this polite, almost charming nod. Nothing creepy, nothing dramatic. Just a guy relaxing before a short flight. The plane rolls onto the runway. The engines roar. The cabin vibrates. And as the wheels lift off the ground, as Portland shrinks beneath them, as the night sky swallows the aircraft whole, he reaches into his suit pocket and pulls out a simple folded note. He leans slightly toward the flight attendant. Not enough to draw attention, just enough so she sees the paper. "Miss," he says softly, like he's telling her a secret nobody else should hear. "You better take a look at that note. I have a bomb." Not frantic, not loud, not like a man threatening something. More like a man stating a fact. The same way someone might say, "Your shoelace is untied," or "You dropped your wallet." She opens the note. Inside, a message written in clean, steady block letters. No doodles, no panic, just instructions. She looks at him terrified, and he meets her eyes with this calm, almost sympathetic expression. He opens his briefcase just enough for her to see wires, battery packs, something red. Real or not, it doesn't matter. Her breath catches. His doesn't. And right there, 20 minutes after takeoff, in the calmest voice imaginable, he makes his demand. "I want $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, And when we land in Seattle, I want a fuel truck ready. No heroes, no tricks. He leans back in his seat, takes another sip of bourbon, looks out the window at the darkening sky as if he's just another man enjoying the view. And somehow, impossibly, that's the moment you realize this man isn't scared. This man isn't improvising. This man isn't hijacking a plane. He's executing a plan, a perfect one. The flight attendant swallows hard, nods, and walks straight to the cockpit. Every step feels heavier than the last. And meanwhile, Cooper sits there like he's on a business trip, sipping his bourbon, watching the storm outside like it's entertainment. No tension in his shoulders, no shaking hands, no sweating, just this unnerving stillness. Almost like he's been waiting his whole life for this exact moment. The pilots get the message. The captain turns around, glances through the cockpit door, and sees Cooper sitting calmly in row 18. Not looking at him, not watching anything, just staring out the window like a man enjoying the sunset before dinner. And that's when the captain knows this is real. Hijackers panic. Hijackers bark orders. Hijackers sweat. But this looks like a man who has practiced this in a mirror. The captain radios Seattle. We have a situation. Seattle radios the FBI. We have a bigger situation. By now the passengers have no idea what's happening. They just think the plane is circling, maybe because of weather, maybe delays, maybe the usual airline nonsense. Some complain, some sigh, some read their newspapers, but nobody knows that 20 rows behind them sits a man with a bomb, or something that damn well looks like one, and a plan that will turn this flight into legend. The flight attendant returns, nervous but composed, and Cooper gives her this little nod, respectful, almost gentlemanly, like he knows she's scared, but he appreciates her professionalism. He tells her, "You're doing just fine." Who the hell hijacks a plane and gives compliments? Hours pass. The plane circles Seattle, burning fuel while the FBI scrambles to gather the money in the parachutes. They're terrified. He might blow the plane if they stall too long, but they're even more terrified he might actually escape if they give him what he wants. But they have no choice. Cooper holds all the cards. Down below, reporters gather, cops gather, spectators gather, and for a brief moment, the whole country holds its breath over one anonymous man in seat 18C. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the plane gets clearance to land. The passengers are told there's a minor mechanical issue, which, to be fair, is one hell of an understatement. As they disembark, Cooper watches them go one by one, silent, calm, invisible, in plain sight. He never threatens them, never waves the bomb, never makes a scene, and the passengers walk off that plane completely unaware they were part of something that will rewrite FBI textbooks. Only the crew remains on board, and the money. A flight attendant brings him the ransom. $200,000 in tightly bound cash, stuffed into a canvas bag. When he sees it, Cooper simply nods, checks the weight with one hand and says, "Thank you, thank you." He inspects the parachutes. 4 of them, just like he asked. 2 main, 2 reserve. Why 4? Why not 1? That question will haunt investigators for decades. Was he trying to trick the FBI? Did he plan to take a hostage? Nobody knew then. Nobody knows now. He finishes his drink, leaves the glass on the tray like a polite guest, and then he gives the next instruction, voice steady, confident, like a man ordering room service. Take off again, head south, toward Mexico, keep the plane low and slow. The pilots look at each other. This guy knows aviation too well. The flight crew complies. They take off into a dark, violent storm. Rain hammering the fuselage, wind slamming the wings, turbulence shaking the cabin like a tin can in a hurricane. Any normal person would be terrified. But Cooper is ready. He stands. He grabs the money bag. He tightens the parachute straps. And then he walks to the back of the plane. He lowers the rear staircase, something almost nobody even knew existed on that aircraft model. Wind explodes into the cabin. The noise is deafening. The cold is brutal. The plane shakes violently. Any sane human would freeze. But Cooper steps down that staircase like he's walking into destiny. He turns back one last time, gives a calm nod to the crew watching him from the cockpit door, and then he jumps into freezing rain, into blackness, into a storm strong enough to rip metal from wings, into a wilderness with no lights, no roads, no mercy. And just like that, he's gone, vanished, erased, absorbed by the night. When the plane lands hours later, battered by the storm, the FBI swarms it. They comb the cabin inch by inch. They check the cockpit, the seats, the lavatories, the cargo hold. But there's nothing. D.B. Cooper has evaporated. The FBI exploded into action like a storm had hit the Pacific Northwest. Agents swarmed airports, tracked every lead, interrogated every passenger, and pored over the aircraft with magnifying glasses and scanners. Every detail mattered. Fingerprints, cigarette butts, the faintest fibers. They even checked the skies, looking for a parachute in the dark that never existed. Every clue led to nothing. Cooper had disappeared without a trace. The nation was obsessed. Newspapers plastered his name across the front page. Mystery in the skies. The man who vanished. Headlines screamed across towns and cities, and Americans couldn't get enough. Radio shows debated it, people whispered about it at Thanksgiving dinners, and conspiracy theories began forming before the ink had even dried. How could a man just vanish from an airplane in mid-flight? Into what? The mountains? The forests? The raging storms? The FBI had their team of experts, the best in the country. They recreated the jump, tested every theory. Did he land safely? Did he die on impact? Did he swim across the Columbia River? They even brought in skydivers to calculate distances, wind speeds, parachute drift. Yet every simulation brought the same conclusion. It was possible, but highly improbable. And still, Cooper remained missing. Weeks turned into months. The money disappeared, the evidence went cold, and yet the legend grew. People claimed sightings, a man matching his description, camping in the wilderness, hitchhiking along country roads, even slipping quietly into Canadian towns. Nobody knew if it was him or just a copycat. Every time someone thought they had solved the case, it fell apart under scrutiny. And the FBI files, thick, dusty, and mostly full of frustration. Agents who had chased the man had retired, telling tales over beers of the perfect criminal who simply vanished. Years later, fragments of the story surfaced. A boy finds some of the ransom money buried along a riverbank. It's a clue, but not a solution. Hundreds of suspects are questioned. Some people dedicate entire lifetimes to solving the mystery, becoming obsessed, almost haunted by it. Private investigators, writers, even former law enforcement, all chasing shadows. And yet, every path circles back to the same conclusion. D.B. Cooper did exactly what he planned and then disappeared. And that's the part that makes Americans lean in every single time. It's audacious. It's cinematic. It's almost impossible to believe. He hijacked a plane, demanded a fortune, jumped into a storm and left nothing behind. Not a name, not a footprint, not a single shred of proof that he survived. And yet somehow, that's the legend. Not the crime itself, not the money, the escape, the vanishing act. Even today, 50 years later, people talk about him. They make movies, TV shows, documentaries. Every kid in America who dreams of adventure imagines that moment. Standing at the back of the plane, staring into the night, taking the leap. And every adult wonders, secretly or not, if he made it. If he's still out there, living, laughing, enjoying the audacity of his own plan. It's not just a crime, it's the perfect story. It's rebellion, intelligence, daring, and mystery rolled into one. And that's why D.B. Cooper is more than a man. He's a legend. He's a ghost. He's the one unsolved hijacking that will never fully die. Because the mystery itself is too powerful, too tantalizing, and too American to ever fade away. As the years rolled on, the case became a legend, a puzzle the FBI couldn't solve and America couldn't stop talking about. Agents combed through mountains, rivers, forests, anywhere they thought he could have landed. They brought in experts in survival, skydiving, and even wilderness tracking. Every scenario was tested. Could he have survived a night in November, in freezing temperatures, rain, and gale-force winds? Most experts said it was unlikely. But then again, the impossible had already happened once, the jump. Suspects came and went. Some were promising, clever, maybe even had the skill to pull off something like Cooper's audacious escape. But every time, investigators hit a dead end. Fingerprints didn't match. Alibis were airtight. Confessions turned out to be hoaxes or self-serving lies. Even today, the most promising leads leave more questions than answers. Was he an Air Force veteran, a career criminal, a thrill seeker? Nobody knows. And that uncertainty, that's what keeps the story alive. In 1980, a boy named Brian Ingram stumbled upon a decaying leather bundle buried along the Columbia River, washed out by floodwaters. He opened it and found bundles of money, some still intact. The serial numbers matched the ransom. It was a tantalizing clue, proof that at least some of the loot had survived, but it didn't tell a single story about Cooper himself. No identity, no trace, just more questions. How much of the money did he keep? Did he ever spend it? Was this a mistake or a clever part of the plan? And Americans love questions. We love the what-ifs, the stories that leave a crack wide enough for imagination to slip through. Who was he really? Did he survive that night, living quietly somewhere in Canada, the Pacific Northwest, or even farther away? Or did he die, leaving behind the ultimate unsolved riddle, taunting the FBI and thrilling generations of curious minds? Every clue, every theory, every supposed sighting spins the legend wider, makes him larger than life. The FBI eventually closed the active investigation, calling it a cold case, but the fascination never ended. Books were written, documentaries aired, podcasts dissect every fiber of the case, every word in the note, every photograph. Fans debate the plausibility of each theory in online forums and social media threads, and still, no one can definitively say what happened. And that's the brilliance of it. Cooper didn't just hijack a plane. He hijacked our imagination. People whisper about him in bars. Kids bring up his name in school history projects. Crime enthusiasts pore over blueprints of the 727, trying to visualize the jump, the landing, the escape. Every time someone tells the story, they lean closer, speaking with that hushed reverence we reserve for legends. And maybe that's exactly how he planned it. Maybe that's exactly how he wanted it, to vanish into myth while America continues to chase shadows decades later. Because, let's be honest, Americans are obsessed with the audacious, the clever, the impossible. And Cooper had all three. He wasn't just a criminal. He was the ultimate outsider. A man who looked ordinary, acted ordinary, and then did something extraordinary. Something that, even 50 years later, nobody else has dared replicate. The jump, the escape, the disappearance. It's a perfect storm of daring, risk, and genius. And it's why the story still hooks us. Why we lean in. Why our imaginations run wild with each retelling. Over the decades, the name D.B. Cooper became more than a headline. It became a symbol, a legend, a what-if whispered across the country. Who he was didn't matter as much as what he represented. The audacity to pull off the impossible, the quiet rebellion against rules, the thrill of vanishing into thin air. People imagined him everywhere, in a cabin tucked deep in the Oregon woods, on a remote Canadian farm, even living in plain sight among us, blending in, smiling at a Thanksgiving dinner, knowing he had cheated fate itself. Every lead the FBI followed only deepened the mystery. Witnesses reported strange men parachuting in remote forests. People found pieces of money in riverbanks, and old records surfaced, suggesting Cooper could have been a trained skydiver, yet nothing ever proved it. Every plausible scenario seemed possible, yet none was certain. And Americans, with their love for conspiracy, mystery, and the underdog genius, couldn't get enough. Suspects came and went. Some were eccentric, brilliant, or criminally savvy. One was a decorated war veteran. Another had the technical skills to pull off the jump. Some even claimed to be Cooper themselves. Each claim fueled endless debates. Radio shows dissected them. Newspapers ran wild theories, and the public lapped it up. Everyone wanted to solve the puzzle, to find the man who had danced through law enforcement's fingers like smoke. And yet, year after year, the puzzle stayed incomplete. The FBI eventually closed the case officially, calling it cold. But for the public, it was far from over. The story lived on in books, documentaries, podcasts, and late-night discussions. D.B. Cooper became a myth, a folk hero, a cautionary tale, and an obsession all at once. People dissected every movement on that plane, every word of the note, every detail of the parachutes. They debated wind patterns, drop zones, survival tactics, all in search of the impossible truth. And that's the magic. Cooper didn't just escape physically. He escaped history itself, leaving behind a perfect mystery. He became an eternal figure in American culture, the ordinary man who did something extraordinary, the ghost who outsmarted the system, the legend who didn't leave a body but left an entire nation breathless with curiosity. 50 years later, people still debate. 50 years later, kids still dream of jumping into the storm like he did. 50 years later, the FBI files sit gathering dust, a testament to the fact that some mysteries were never meant to be solved. And maybe that's why we keep coming back. Because there's something irresistibly American about the story. The courage, the audacity, the rebellion, and the mystery. We love a man who defies expectations, who flips the script, who disappears without a trace and leaves us staring at the sky, wondering if the impossible can actually be real. Cooper didn't just pull off a hijacking, he hijacked our imagination. And for a country that adores the audacious, the clever, and the bold, he will never be forgotten. And so, the story of D.B. Cooper ends. Or rather, it doesn't end at all. We don't know if he survived the jump. We don't know where he went, what he did afterward, or if he even lived to see another Thanksgiving. The only thing we know for sure is that he existed for one breathtaking moment as a man who rewrote the rules and vanished from history like smoke. Theories abound. Some say he died in the night, the storm claiming him instantly. Others believe he made it to the wilderness, blending in, living under a new name, maybe even watching the news coverage of his own disappearance and smiling at the audacity of it all. Some insist he was a professional, a skydiving expert, an ex-military man, someone who could survive anything. Others think he was lucky, pure, unbelievable luck. And that uncertainty, that unanswerable question, is exactly what makes the story eternal. For Americans, it's not just a crime story. It's a legend. It's the audacity, the intelligence, the sheer nerve to do something so bold, so daring, and so clean that it leaves authorities baffled and generations enthralled. We love a man who beats the system. We love a story that teases the impossible. And in D.B. Cooper, we have both, perfectly wrapped in a stormy November night, aboard a plane that took off into history and never looked back. Even today, we chase him. We write books, make documentaries, debate theories online. We imagine the man in forests, rivers, and cities. We imagine the jump, the landing, the life afterward, and somehow he remains just out of reach, teasing us with the thrill of the unknown. That's why Cooper isn't just a name in an FBI file. He's an idea. He's the ultimate rebel, the master of disappearance, and the ghost who keeps America dreaming. So next time you hear the wind howl through the mountains of the Pacific Northwest, or watch a plane vanish into the clouds, maybe you'll think of him. Maybe you'll imagine the impossible, the audacious, the man who took $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a single leap into the unknown, and who, for 50 years and counting, has never been caught. That's the legend of D.B. Cooper, the only unsolved skyjacking in American history. The man who became a myth, a hero, and a mystery all at once. And that, my friends, is why we'll never forget him. The story has come to an end, my viewers. If you like this story, then please like and subscribe to me so as not to miss the following stories. And write your opinions about this video. And write ideas about what else you can tell. Well, see you in the next stories. See you later.